Lesson 61. Chat. Online. Do you prefer chatting with your friends on the phone or online?
I prefer chatting with my friends online.
Why?
Because I can see them.
How often do you go online to look at your email?
I go online a few times a day to look at my email.
Notice. Do you notice anything different about the classroom today?
Yes, I noticed something different about the classroom today.
What's the first thing you notice about people when you meet them for the first time?
The first thing I notice about people when I meet them for the first time is their eyes.
Free. Busy. Are most people busy on Sunday?
No, most people aren't busy on Sunday. They're free.
What do we mean by a free meal?
By a free meal, we mean that we don't have to pay for it.
Do you believe that the best things in life are free?
Yes, I believe that the best things in life are free.
Lie. Comfortable. Uncomfortable. Pillow. Is the book standing on the table?
No, the book isn't standing on the table, it's lying on the table.
Is it more comfortable to sleep lying down or sitting up?
It's more comfortable to sleep lying down than sitting up.
Do you find it comfortable to sleep without a pillow?
No, I don't find it comfortable to sleep without a pillow. I find it uncomfortable.
Wake up. Woke up. Woken up. Go to sleep. Immediately. Midnight. Do you usually go to sleep before midnight?
No, I don't usually go to sleep before midnight.
Do you generally wake up early?
Yes, I generally wake up early.
What are the three forms of wake up?
The three forms of wake up are wake up, woke up, woken up.
What was the first thing you saw when you woke up today?
The first thing I saw when I woke up today was the ceiling.
Have you ever woken up too late to go to school?
Yes, I've sometimes woken up too late to go to school.
Through. Button. Buttonhole. What am I doing?
You're putting your pen through the buttonhole in your shirt.
When you look through your bedroom window, what do you see?
When I look through my bedroom window, I see some trees.
If you went from London to Rome, which cities would you perhaps have to go through?
If I went from London to Rome, I would perhaps have to go through Paris, Milan, etc.
Career. Would you like a career in the army?
No, I wouldn't like a career in the army.
Cross. Crossroads. Test. What's this?
It's a cross.
When a teacher puts a cross next to an answer in a written test, what does it mean?
When a teacher puts a cross next to an answer in a written test, it means the answer is wrong.
Are there any crossroads at the end of the street where you live?
Yes, there are some crossroads at the end of the street where I live.
Danger. Dangerous. Dangerously. Alcohol. Detective. What colour do we use for danger?
We use red for danger.
Is it dangerous to drive after drinking alcohol?
Yes, it's dangerous to drive after drinking alcohol.
Would you like to live dangerously like a detective? Somebody like Sherlock Holmes, for example.
Yes, I'd like to live dangerously like a detective. Somebody like Sherlock Holmes.
Should. Obligation. Alternative. Ambulance. What's the difference between these two sentences? I must study and I should study.
The difference between those two sentences is that I must study means that I have no alternative, whereas I should study means I have alternatives, but that studying is the right thing for me to do.
How do we translate I must study?
We translate I must study with...
Do you think people should be more polite in the shops and streets?
Yes, I think people should be more polite in the shops and streets.
Do you agree that students should study hard?
Yes, I agree that students should study hard.
Do you agree that young people should help the old?
Yes, I agree that young people should help the old.
What should we do when somebody is dangerously ill?
When somebody is dangerously ill, we should immediately call an ambulance.
What do you think you should do if you want to make a lot of money?
If you want to make a lot of money, I think you should work very hard.
Correct. Grammatical. Do you correct your dictations during the lesson?
No, I don't correct my dictations during the lesson. I correct them after the lesson.
In a Callan method lesson, does the teacher correct your grammatical mistakes?
Yes, in a Callan method lesson, the teacher corrects my grammatical mistakes.
How can we correct our mistakes in our pronunciation?
We can correct our mistakes in our pronunciation by listening and speaking as much as possible.
Problem. Cause. Colleague. Boss. Freedom. Justice. If you have a problem with a colleague at work, should you speak to your boss about it?
Yes, if I have a problem with a colleague at work, I should speak to my boss about it.
Can smoking cause health problems?
Yes, smoking can cause health problems.
In history, have many people died for the causes of freedom and justice?
Yes, in history many people have died for the causes of freedom and justice.
As we have now studied about 1,000 words and a lot of the grammar, can you hold a simple conversation in English?
Yes, as we have now studied about 1,000 words and a lot of the grammar, I can hold a simple conversation in English.
As you are not tall enough to reach the ceiling, what would you have to do if you wanted to reach it?
As I am not tall enough to reach the ceiling, I would have to put a chair on the table and stand on the chair if I wanted to reach it.
That is. Give me a sentence with that is in it.
Everybody loves that film. That is, everybody I've spoken to. We will go to the cinema this evening. That is, if we have enough money.
Bone. Have you ever broken any of the bones in your body?
Yes, I've broken one of the bones in my body.
When? How?
A few years ago, I fell off my bicycle and broke my arm.
Lesson 62. Life. Lives. The poor. The rich. What's the plural of life?
The plural of life is lives.
Do you think the lives of the poor are happier than those of the rich?
Yes, I think the lives of the poor are happier than those of the rich.
Although. Make a sentence with the word although in it.
Although the food was not very nice, I ate it because I was hungry.
Although you're now able to hold a simple conversation in English, do you think you should keep studying?
Yes, although I'm now able to hold a simple conversation in English, I think I should keep studying.
Are some people always happy although they have problems in their lives?
Yes, some people are always happy although they have problems in their lives.
Cook. Tasty. Pasta. Is there a restaurant near here that cooks tasty food?
Yes, there's a restaurant near here that cooks tasty food.
Is it difficult to cook pasta?
No, it isn't difficult to cook pasta. It's easy.
Are you a good cook?
Yes, I'm a good cook.
Independent. Do you think that all the countries of the world should be independent?
Yes, I think that all the countries of the world should be independent.
Origin. Do many European languages have their origins in Latin?
Yes, many European languages have their origins in Latin.
Belong to. Why don't you take this book home with you after the lesson?
I don't take that book home with me after the lesson because it doesn't belong to me.
Who does that pen belong to?
This pen belongs to me.
If a factory belonged to you, do you think you would be able to make a lot of money?
Yes, if a factory belonged to me, I think I'd be able to make a lot of money.
Could, vice versa. What can we use instead of would be able in conditional sentences?
We can use could instead of would be able in conditional sentences.
Give me an example, please.
If I was a bird, I could fly.
Now I'm going to ask you some questions with could, and you answer with would be able, and vice versa. If you were very, very tall, could you touch the ceiling?
Yes, if I were very, very tall, I would be able to touch the ceiling.
If you were a doctor, would you be able to help people who were ill?
Yes, if I were a doctor, I could help people who were ill.
If you were as strong as a horse, could you lift a man above your head with only one hand?
Yes, if I were as strong as a horse, I would be able to lift a man above my head with only one hand.
Throw. What am I going to do?
You're going to throw your pen at the window.
Do you think you could throw a stone further than I can?
Yes, I think I could throw a stone further than you can.
Alive? Dead. Is Napoleon alive?
No, Napoleon isn't alive, he's dead.
Drop. Go without. What am I doing?
You're dropping your pen on the table.
What's the pen doing?
The pen's dropping on the table.
What would happen if I dropped a glass on the floor?
If you dropped a glass on the floor, it would break.
What's the longest time you have ever gone without drinking a drop of water?
The longest I've ever gone without drinking a drop of water is about 10 hours.
Assassinate. What happened to President Kennedy?
President Kennedy was assassinated in 1963.
Usual. Unusual. Did anything unusual happen to you yesterday?
Yes, something unusual happened to me yesterday.
What?
I found £20 in the street.
Is it usual for people in your country to eat hot food for breakfast?
Yes, it's usual for people in my country to eat hot food for breakfast.
Is it unusual for children to find coffee tasty?
Yes, it's unusual for children to find coffee tasty.
Still. Yet. In progress. What's the difference between still and yet?
The difference between still and yet is that we use still for something that is in progress at the moment, whereas we use yet for something that has not begun or happened. We generally use still in positive sentences, whereas we generally use yet in questions and negative sentences.
Give me some examples, please.
It's still winter, it isn't spring yet.
Has the lesson finished yet?
No, the lesson hasn't finished yet. It's still in progress.
Have we finished speaking yet?
No, we haven't finished speaking yet. We're still speaking.
Have they gone home yet?
No, they haven't gone home yet. They're still here.
Has the spring begun yet?
No, the spring hasn't begun yet. It's still winter.
Will I still be in this country in 2 weeks' time?
Yes, you'll still be in this country in 2 weeks'
Lesson
time.
63.
Special.
Clean. Dirty. Dirt. Know of. Are the bottoms of your shoes clean?
No, the bottoms of my shoes aren't clean. They're dirty.
When our shoes are dirty, what should we do?
When our shoes are dirty, we should clean them.
Which do you think is the cleanest city you know of?
I think Tokyo is the cleanest city I know of.
And which do you think is the dirtiest?
I think Liverpool is the dirtiest.
Which do you think is less unpleasant, the dirt of the city or the dirt of the country, of the farm, etc.?
I think the dirt of the country is less unpleasant than the dirt of the city.
to be afraid. Do you remember if you were afraid of the dark when you were a little child?
Yes, I remember I was afraid of the dark when I was a little child.
Would you be afraid to go round the world in a small open boat?
Yes, I would be afraid to go round the world in a small open boat.
Do people shake when they feel very afraid?
Yes, people shake when they feel very afraid.
Guard. On your guard. Off your guard. What's the best way to guard against becoming ill?
The best way to guard against becoming ill is to eat healthy food, sleep well, and do exercise.
Must we be on our guard when we buy something from a man selling things in the street?
Yes, we must be on our guard when we buy something from a man selling things in the street.
Why?
Because maybe we won't be able to find him again if there's a problem with the thing we've bought.
What's the opposite of on your guard?
The opposite of on your guard is off your guard.
Calm. Quietly. What's the best way to calm somebody down when he's very angry?
The best way to calm somebody down when he's very angry is to speak quietly and pleasantly to him.
Are we having calm weather at the moment?
Yes, we're having calm weather at the moment.
If I were. King. Person. First, second person, etc. What are the two ways of forming the second conditional with the verb to be?
The two ways of forming the second conditional with the verb to be are if I was and if I were.
If you were a millionaire, where would you live?
If I were a millionaire, I would live in Hawaii.
Why?
Because it's beautiful.
If I were you, which language would I speak?
If you were me, you would speak Spanish.
If you were a king, what would your wife be called?
If I were a king, my wife would be called a queen.
If there wasn't a light in this room, would we be able to see well when it got dark?
No, if there wasn't a light in this room, we wouldn't be able to see well when it got dark. We would see badly.
If there weren't any food in the world, would we all die?
Yes. If there weren't any food in the world, we would all die.
If you weren't you, who would you like to be?
If I weren't me, I would like to be George Clooney.
Why?
Because he's handsome and has a lot of money.
If I were you. Advice. Expression. Especially. Can we use the expression, if I were you, to give advice to somebody?
Yes, we can use the expression if I were you to give advice to somebody.
Give me an example, please.
If I were you, I would eat more vegetables. Or, I wouldn't buy that car if I were you.
What's the biggest problem in your life at the moment?
The biggest problem in my life at the moment is learning English.
Give him some advice, please.
If I were you, I would study hard.
Win, won, won. Lottery. What's another opposite of the verb lose besides find?
Another opposite of the verb lose besides find is win.
What are the three forms of win?
The three forms of win are win, won, won.
Does your country usually win at football?
No, my country doesn't usually win at football. It usually loses.
Do you do the lottery?
Yes, I do the lottery.
Have you ever won?
No, I've never won.
If you won £1 million, what would you do with it?
If I won £1 million, I would buy a large house.
Useful. Useless. Possess. Is this pen useless?
No, this pen isn't useless. It's useful.
What do we do with useless things?
We throw useless things away.
What are the two most useful things you possess?
The two most useful things I possess are my phone and my computer.
Do you think that what you're learning now will be useful to you later on in life?
Yes, I think that what I'm learning now will be useful to me later on in life,
Why?
because it will help me get work and speak to people from other countries.
Take
Lesson
by
64.
surprise.
Contraction of would. Contract. What's the contraction of I would?
The contraction of I would is I'd.
What are the contractions of you would, he would, she would, etc.?
The contractions of you would, he would, she would, etc. are you'd, he'd, she'd, it'd, we'd, you'd, they'd.
If you went to the cinema this evening, which film would you see?
If I went to the cinema this evening, I'd see The Artist.
If I were you, which language would I speak?
If you were me, you'd speak Italian.
If a plant had no water, would it die?
Yes, if a plant had no water, it'd die.
Contraction of would with other words. What's the contraction of bookwood?
The contraction of bookwood is booked.
Lesson would. Who would? What would? Which would?
Lessoned, who'd, what'd, which'd.
If you were a king, what would your wife be called?
If I were a king, my wife would be called a queen.
If you lost your way in a large city, who'd you ask?
If I lost my way in a large city, I'd ask a policeman.
If today were Sunday, what would tomorrow be?
If today were Sunday, tomorrow'd be Monday.
Sandwich. Cheese. When office workers are too busy to leave their desks for lunch, do they often just have a quick sandwich?
Yes, when office workers are too busy to leave their desks for lunch, they often just have a quick sandwich.
What kind of things do we put in sandwiches?
We put meat, cheese, egg, etc. in sandwiches.
Fault. Faultless. Faulty. Fix. What's your biggest fault?
My biggest fault is that I get angry easily.
If your computer was faulty, would you know how to fix the fault?
No, if my computer was faulty, I wouldn't know how to fix the fault.
Are your dictations usually faultless?
No, my dictations aren't usually faultless. They usually contain mistakes.
If a student makes a mistake in his dictation, is it usually his fault or the teacher's fault?
If a student makes a mistake in his dictation, it's usually his fault, but it could sometimes be the teacher's fault.
Okay. All right. What can we say instead of okay?
Instead of okay, we can say all right.
Compare. Comparison. Have something in common. Can we compare Michelangelo with Napoleon?
No, we can't compare Michelangelo with Napoleon.
Why not?
Because they were two completely different kinds of people who did different things from each other.
What must two people or things have if we want to make a comparison between them?
If we want to make a comparison between two people or things, they must have something in common.
Ice. Cool. What do we use ice for?
We use ice for putting in drinks to cool them, etc.
Pour. What am I doing?
You're pouring some water from a bottle into a glass.
Unite. Do you think that all the countries of the world will unite one day?
No, I don't think that all the countries of the world will unite one day.
Even. Surprising. Give me a sentence with even in it.
She speaks Russian, German, French, and even Chinese. He was very impolite. He didn't even say hello. It's very simple. Even a child could understand it.
Mix. Mixture. Pink. Do we generally mix sugar with potatoes?
No, we don't generally mix sugar with potatoes.
Do you think a mixture of tea and coffee would make a pleasant drink?
No, I don't think a mixture of tea and coffee would make a pleasant drink. It would make an unpleasant drink.
If you mixed some red and white paint together, what would you get?
If I mixed some red and white paint together, I'd get pink paint.
Care. Care for. Take care of. Who cared for you when you were a child?
My mother cared for me when I was a child.
Do you think the young should take care of the old?
Yes, I think the young should take care of the old.
Do you take good care of your health?
Yes, I take good care of my health.
Do you care what people think or say about you?
Yes, I care what people think or say about me.
Appointment. Keep an appointment. Hurry. Take your time. If you were late for a very important appointment, would you take your time?
No, if I were late for a very important appointment, I wouldn't take my time, I'd hurry.
Why?
Because it's important to keep appointments that we've made.
Why is it sometimes a bad thing to hurry?
It's sometimes a bad thing to hurry because we often make mistakes when we hurry.
Would you take your time going home if somebody told you your house was on fire?
No, I wouldn't take my time going home if somebody told me my house was on fire. I'd hurry.
Plenty of. What do the words plenty of mean?
The words plenty of mean more than enough.
Do people hurry when they have plenty of time?
No, people don't hurry when they have plenty of time. They take their time.
What's the opposite of plenty of water?
The opposite of plenty of water is little water or
Lesson
not enough
65.
water.
4. Since. Period. Point. What's the difference between for and since?
The difference between for and since is that we use the word for when we say a period of time, whereas we use the word since when we say the point at which the period began.
Give me some examples of for.
For half an hour, for 2 weeks.
Now give me some examples of since.
Since 6 o'clock, since last June.
How long have you been in this room for?
I've been in this room for half an hour.
Since when has she been in this room?
She's been in this room since 2:30.
How long have you lived in this town for?
I've lived in this town for 6 months.
Since when has she lived in this town?
She's lived in this town since July.
About how long have you known me for?
I've known you for about a year.
Since when has she known me?
She's known you since last June.
Have you been able to speak English for more than 10 years?
No, I haven't been able to speak English for more than 10 years.
Have you been able to speak English since you were a young child?
Yes, I've been able to speak English since I was a young child.
Kitchen. Fridge. Freezer. Cooker. Sink. Microwave. What kind of things does a kitchen usually contain?
A kitchen usually contains a fridge, a freezer, a cooker, a sink, etc.
Does meat last longer in a fridge or a freezer?
Meat lasts longer in a freezer.
Why do some people like using microwaves?
Some people like using microwaves because they cook food very quickly.
Studies. Did you find English pronunciation a little difficult at the beginning of your studies?
Yes, I found English pronunciation a little difficult at the beginning of my studies.
Do you hope your English studies will help your future career?
Yes, I hope my English studies will help my future career.
Lend. Lent. Lent. Return. Would you lend me some money if I asked you?
Yes, I'd lend you some money if you asked me.
If you lent something to somebody and they didn't return it, What did you do?
If I lent something to somebody and they didn't return it, I'd keep asking for it back.
First name. Surname. What's your first name?
My first name's Anushka.
What's your surname?
My surname's Holmes.
Actor. Actress. Famous. Film star. Would you like to be famous?
Yes, I'd like to be famous.
What's a film star?
A film star is a famous actor or actress in the cinema world.
Tell me the names of some famous film stars, please.
Johnny Depp, Penelope Cruz, etc.
Name a few famous people in history.
A few famous people in history are Shakespeare, Einstein, Michelangelo, etc.
Industrial. Agricultural. Region. What's the most industrial city in your country?
London is the most industrial city in my country.
What's the most agricultural region of your country?
The southwest is the most agricultural region of my country.
Apologize. Apology. Keep somebody waiting. What do we say when we apologize for doing something wrong?
When we apologize for doing something wrong, we say, "I'm sorry."
If you keep somebody waiting for a long time, should you apologize?
Yes, if you keep somebody waiting for a long time, you should apologize.
What's the noun of the verb apologize?
The noun of the verb apologize is apology.
Avoid. How can we help to avoid becoming ill?
We can help to avoid becoming ill by living a healthy life.
Bend. Do you have to bend down if you want to touch your feet?
No, I don't have to bend down if I want to touch my feet, but it would be the easiest way.
Century. Which do you think was the best century in history to live in?
I think the 16th century was the best century in history to live in.
Fashion. Do you like the fashion in clothes at the moment?
No, I don't like the fashion in clothes at the moment.
Gate. Does this school have a gate outside it?
Yes, this school has a gate outside it.
Worry. Be worried. Do some people worry too much?
Yes, some people worry too much.
Are you worried about your future?
Yes, I'm worried about my future.
Why should you not worry if you don't immediately understand some of the grammar in this book?
I shouldn't worry if I don't immediately understand some of the grammar in this book because I will practice it again in other lessons and I can study it at home.
Run. When we're in a hurry, what must we do?
When we're in a hurry, we must run.
What's the furthest you've ever run?
The furthest I've ever run
Lesson
is
66.
a kilometre.
Past continuous. I was speaking. Particular. While. When do we use the present continuous?
We use the present continuous for an action that is in progress now.
Give me an example, please.
I am speaking English now.
When do we use the past continuous?
We use the past continuous for an action that was in progress at a particular time in the past.
Give me an example, please.
I was speaking English at this time yesterday.
Were you chatting to anybody when I came into the room at the beginning of the lesson?
Yes, I was chatting to somebody when you came into the room at the beginning of the lesson.
Were the students standing or sitting when I left the classroom at the end of the last lesson?
The students were sitting when you left the classroom at the end of the last lesson.
Was it raining while you were coming to school today?
No, it wasn't raining while I was coming to school today.
What were you doing at this time last Sunday?
I was meeting with my friends at this time last Sunday.
Do you think most people in this town were sleeping at midnight last night?
Yes, I think most people in this town were sleeping at midnight last night.
Where were you living 10 years ago?
I was living in Japan 10 years ago.
Earn. About how much does a doctor earn a year in your country?
A doctor earns about £60,000 a year in my country.
Formal. Informal. Jeans. Trainer. How do you do? Would it be okay for a man to wear jeans and trainers if he was going to a formal dinner?
No, it wouldn't be okay for a man to wear jeans and trainers if he was going to a formal dinner. He should wear a suit and tie.
When we meet somebody for the first time, what can we say?
When we meet somebody for the first time, we can say, "Nice to meet you."
And what do we say if we want to be more formal?
If we want to be more formal, we say, "How do you do?"
And what does the other person reply?
The other person replies, "How do you do?"
Persuade. Is it easy to persuade people to give their money away?
No, it isn't easy to persuade people to give their money away. It's difficult.
Hairdresser. How often do you go to the hairdressers?
I go to the hairdressers about 24 times a year.
So equals very. Interesting. Exciting. Why do you think some films are so popular?
I think some films are so popular because they tell interesting or exciting stories.
Grammatically. Is it grammatically correct to say, "I've seen her yesterday"?
No, it isn't grammatically correct to say, "I've seen her yesterday." We should say, "I saw her yesterday" instead.
Bathroom. Bath. Shower. Toilet. Basin. What does a bathroom usually contain?
A bathroom usually contains a bath or shower, a toilet and a basin.
Which do you prefer, baths or showers?
I prefer showers.
What's a rain shower?
A rain shower is a short period of rain.
Mirror. Reflect. What does a mirror do?
A mirror reflects light.
In which rooms in a house do we usually find a mirror?
We usually find a mirror in a bathroom or a bedroom.
Active and passive voice. Active. Passive. Subject. Object. Active voice. John broke the window. Passive voice. The window was broken by John. To be plus past participle. By. What does the active voice communicate?
The active voice communicates that the subject does the action.
What does the passive voice communicate?
The passive voice communicates that the subject receives the action.
How do we form the passive voice?
We form the passive voice with the verb to be and a past participle.
Give me some examples, please.
My car was washed last month. Many computers are made in China. The pupils will be taught by the teacher.
Now I'm going to give you a sentence in the active voice, and I want you to put it into the passive voice. John eats the pasta.
The pasta is eaten by John.
John ate the pasta.
The pasta was eaten by John.
John has eaten the pasta.
The pasta has been eaten by John.
John will eat the pasta.
The pasta will be eaten by John.
John is eating the pasta.
The pasta is being eaten by John.
John was eating the pasta.
The pasta was being eaten by John.
John would eat the pasta.
The pasta would be eaten by John.
Now we're going to practice with some different sentences. I clean my car every Saturday.
My car is cleaned by me every Saturday.
She forgot him.
He was forgotten by her.
My boss is going to write that email.
That email is going to be written by my boss.
We are fixing the car.
The car is being fixed by us.
They have followed all the advice.
All the advice has been
Lesson
followed by
67.
them.
Force. Make somebody do. Do I force you to give long answers during the lesson?
Yes, you force me to give long answers during the lesson.
Why?
Because it is important to speak as much as possible.
When you were a child, did your parents make you eat your vegetables?
Yes, when I was a child, my parents made me eat my vegetables.
What kind of films make you laugh?
The kind of films that make me laugh are cartoons.
Snack. Break. Biscuit. Crisps. What is a snack?
A snack is something small that people eat between meals, like a sandwich or a bag of crisps.
Which would you prefer as a snack during a morning break? A bag of crisps or some biscuits?
I'd prefer some biscuits as a snack during a morning break.
To be born. Where were you born?
I was born in London.
How soon after you were born did you learn to walk?
I learnt to walk about a year after I was born.
Murder. Do you like reading books with stories about murders in them?
Yes, I like reading books with stories about murders in them.
Prison. Would you like to see inside a prison?
Yes, I'd like to see inside a prison.
Why?
Because I'd find it interesting.
Pupil. What's a pupil?
A pupil is a child who's in school.
Do most pupils in your country have to wear a uniform?
Yes, most pupils in my country have to wear a uniform.
Root. What do we call the part of a tree that's in the land?
We call the part of a tree that's in the land the roots.
Memory. Have you got a good memory?
Yes, I've got a good memory.
Another contraction of the verb to be. I'm not. I'm not. You aren't. You're not. He isn't. He's not. She isn't. She's not. It isn't. It's not. We aren't. We're not. You aren't. You're not. They aren't. They're not. What can we use instead of I'm not, you aren't, he isn't, etc.?
Instead of I'm not, you aren't, he isn't, etc., we can use I'm not, you're not, he's not, she's not, it's not, we're not, you're not, they're not.
Cross. If you want to go from one side of the road to the other, what must you do?
If I want to go from one side of the road to the other, I must cross the road.
What must you do before crossing the road?
I must look both ways before crossing the road.
If you wanted to go from here to Scotland, would you have to cross the sea, or would you be able to go all the way by land?
If I wanted to go from here to Scotland, I'd be able to go all the way by land. I wouldn't have to cross the sea.
Think of. What was the first thing you thought of when you woke up this morning?
The first thing I thought of when I woke up this morning was the time.
Safe. Safety. On your own. What's the opposite of the word dangerous?
The opposite of the word dangerous is safe.
Do you think it's safe to shop online?
Yes, I think it's safe to shop online.
Do parents often worry about their children's safety?
Yes, parents often worry about their children's safety.
Is it safe for young children to cross the road on their own?
No, it isn't safe for young children to cross the road on their own.
Do you like going on holiday on your own?
Yes, I like going on holiday on my own.
Lay. What's the past of the verb to lie?
The past of the verb to lie is lay.
How long did you lie in bed for last night?
I lay in bed for 8 hours last night.
Sir, Madam, Gentleman, Lady, Customer, Officer. When do people use the words Sir and Madam?
People use the words sir and madam to be polite when they're speaking to their customers in a shop, their officers in the army, or their teachers at school.
Give me an example, please.
Excuse me, sir, can I help you?
When do we use the words gentleman and lady?
We use the words gentleman and lady instead of man and woman when we want to sound polite.
Give me an example, please.
Which of these two gentlemen gave you the book? And will you ask that lady her name, please?
Title. What's your title?
My title is Mrs.
Give me examples of sir and lady used as titles.
Some examples of sir and lady used as titles are Sir Paul McCartney and Lady Diana.
Standard. Height. Which two countries have the highest standards of living in the world?
Norway and Australia have the highest standards of living in the world.
What's the standard height for a man in this country?
The standard height for a man in this country is 1.75 metres.
Lesson
Colourful.
68. Would you say? Opinion. When do we use the expression, would you say?
We use the expression would you say when we ask somebody for his opinion about something. It means, do you think?
Would you say that a king's life was better than that of the average man?
No, I wouldn't say that a king's life was better than that of the average man.
Which tense do we use after the expression, would you say?
We use the past tense after the expression would you say.
What would you say was the best way to remember something?
I'd say that the best way to remember something was to repeat it often.
Look plus adjective. If the sky looks dark and cloudy, do you sometimes decide not to go out?
Yes, if the sky looks dark and cloudy, I sometimes decide not to go out.
When your shoes look dirty, what do you do?
When my shoes look dirty, I clean them.
Get in. Get out of. Get on. Get off. Taxi. Fare. Do we pay the driver when we get in a taxi?
No, we don't pay the driver when we get in a taxi. We pay when we get out of a taxi.
In your country, do you have to buy a ticket before getting on a bus?
Yes, in my country you have to buy a ticket before getting on a bus.
How much is the bus fare from here to where you live?
The bus fare from here to where I live is £2.
Royal. Has your country got a royal family?
Yes, my country's got a royal family.
Mud. Countryside. How do we get mud on our shoes?
We get mud on our shoes by walking in the countryside in the rain.
Crowd. Crowded. Are famous actors often surrounded by crowds when they go out in public?
Yes, famous actors are often surrounded by crowds when they go out in public.
Are the buses in this town usually crowded in the morning?
Yes, the buses in this town are usually crowded in the morning.
Captain. Team. Have you ever been the captain of a sports team?
Yes, I've been the captain of a sports team.
Tell me the name of a famous sea captain.
The name of a famous sea captain is Captain Cook, Captain Nemo, etc.
Wide. Narrow. Which is the widest street in the place where you live and which is the narrowest?
Oxford Street is the widest street in the place where I live, and Berwick Street is the narrowest.
Flag. National. What colour is the flag of your country?
The flag of my country is red, white and blue.
Do you know the origin of your national flag?
Yes, I know the origin of my national flag.
Grass. Live on. Name an animal that lives on grass.
A horse is an animal that lives on grass.
What happens to grass if there's no rain?
If there's no rain, grass becomes yellow and then it dies.
Tower. Where is the nearest tower to the place where you live?
The nearest tower to the place where I live is the Tower of London.
Wet. Dry. Are the streets dry when it rains?
No, the streets aren't dry when it rains. They're wet.
If you walked in the rain without an umbrella, what'd happen?
If I walked in the rain without an umbrella, I'd get wet.
If you got wet, what did you have to do with your clothes?
If I got wet, I'd have to take my clothes off and hang them up to dry.
Through. What's the past of throw?
The past of throw is through.
What'd happen if I threw a stone at the window?
If you threw a stone at the window'd break.
Loud. Turn up. Turn down. If your TV is turned up too loud, what do you do?
If my TV is turned up too loud, I turn it down.
Reflexive pronouns. Myself. Yourself. Himself. Herself. Itself. Oneself. Ourselves. Yourselves. Themselves. Consequently, protect. What are the reflexive pronouns?
The reflexive pronouns are myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, oneself, ourselves, yourselves, and themselves.
When do we use a reflexive pronoun?
We use a reflexive pronoun when the subject and object are the same person or thing.
Is it right to say, I looked at me in the mirror?
No, it isn't right to say I looked at me in the mirror.
Why not?
Because the subject and object are the same person.
What must we say instead?
We must say, I looked at myself in the mirror instead.
Do you think it'd be easy for me to teach myself Chinese?
No, I don't think it'd be easy for you to teach yourself Chinese.
Why not?
Because Chinese is a difficult language to learn.
Did you wash yourself when you were a baby?
No, I didn't wash myself when I was a baby. My mother washed me.
What did you do if you saw a man trying to kill himself?
If I saw a man trying to kill himself, I'd try to stop him or call the police.
Have you ever seen a bird washing itself?
Yes, I've seen a bird washing itself.
Do you think one can teach oneself a language?
Yes, I think one can teach oneself a language.
What do we carry to protect ourselves from the rain?
We carry an umbrella to protect ourselves from the rain.